Hello, BookTube. Well, winter has unexpectedly descended on Boston with not only sub-zero temperatures, but with a threat of a major snowstorm uh, in the immediate offing. So I was a bit surprised a little earlier today to get an email from an old friend of mine who has a church here in Boston saying, "Hey, why don't I haven't been it's been a while since we saw each other. Why don't you come over and we can chat and have a little lunch? How are the girls?" And I wrote back and said, "Are you mad? It's like 5 degrees outside." And he wrote back and said, "Well, in addition to everything else, I've got a bunch of new book donations for the charity shop, and thought I'd give you first crack at them. If you're not interested, though, that's okay." I wrote back and said, "I'll be right there." So I went, even though it's mind-bogglingly cold outside, and I got a bunch of books. I just kept chucking them into a little cardboard box that was there, thinking about muscular teenagers. I just automatically assume now that I don't have to do my own carrying, but I do, because they're all down south on spring break. And I know this because my phone is full of pictures of bulging biceps and oil-tanned pillowy pecs and washboard abs. It's hell. So when I was done and I had a gigantic pile full of stuff for nothing that I wanted to lug back here, I had to do it all on my own. But I did, as I have done in years past, and I wanted to show them to you. It's a mind-boggling mix of things. They were all free, so I grabbed anything that looked interesting to me. First one being something I need like another hole in the head. I collected Shakespeare. Only this is one of my favorites. This is the Collins version, with the gold earring portrait on the cover. And this thing has seen a lot of life. It's battered and it's a little waterlogged. And it's this particular reprint. This Collins reprint is the Alexander text. It's got it's fantastic. It's got a general introduction by Peter Ackroyd. It's got a brief rewrite of Shakespeare's biography by Germaine Greer. It's got an essay on Shakespeare's stagecraft by Anthony Burgess, and it's got it fits just beautifully in the hand. I don't need another complete Shakespeare, but I saw it and I wanted to. It's obvious that no one's going to buy this thing. It's a little beaten up. I will reinforce it and give it lots of love. And then there's this anthology of omnibus of his Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, all 3 books in this. I remember when I was working at a bookstore and we first got this anthology with the big polar bear on the cover. This had to be what? 2007. God, 10 years ago. And I'm excited to read his new book. So, and I haven't read his Dark Materials in well over a decade, so it's time for a reread. It's certainly something that you definitely want to own. And I remember when this came to the bookstore, I really liked the look of it and the heft of it, but I wasn't willing to. What was this? Yeah, this was $22. I wasn't willing to do that, so I didn't get it, and now I have it. And then there's this fairly recent thing. I remember getting an advance copy of it and just getting rid of it. It's The Thing with Feathers. It's a book about various types of birds, and each chapter has original artwork to start it off. Very nice. And then there's the great John McPhee. This is Table of Contents. This is just a collection of miscellaneous essays from, I think, the early 80s that are just, he's so good. They're just wonderful. I myself think that he's at his best in shorter pieces. And this has one in particular called The Ice Pond that I just love. But there are a bunch of others. This is always something to have. And then there's this thing. Little Cottontail. This is a little golden book, and I think I might have mentioned I recently reviewed for the Christian Science Monitor a fantastic new book on the history of the little golden books. And what a history it is. That was such a fun review to write, and such a great book to have. And it's attuned me, as it predictably was going to do. It's attuned me to little golden books wherever I see them. Just finding the whole wonderful parade of them. Not only it's also great because I have a couple of children recipients now for books, so I will read this and enjoy it, and then I will find a home for it. And then, because it was free, and because I want to be open-minded, here on BookTube, I got a Dude Bro, the king of all Dude Bro lit. I got No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. Which first came out, 20 years ago? 2005. I have not read this since then. And I remember being royally annoyed by it the whole time. The sloppy writing, the video game dopamine hits at regular intervals, the no quotation marks, the fact that some abbreviations like don't or can't don't get their apostrophe, while others like your or their do. And there's the reason for it, and you're supposed to parse out the reason for it if you're a dude bro, because God forbid you should read George Eliot. But I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to give it another try. Since I found one for free, I'm going to give it another try. And then there was this thing. I grabbed it impulsively because I'm used to not lifting my own books. It's Robert Jordan, The Shadow Rising, but I didn't know that when I grabbed it. I thought that it was the first book in the Wheel of Time series. In these new trade paperbacks with the newly commissioned artwork. These also I saw at a bookstore the last time I worked at one. They started coming in. These are we going to give me a date here? Yeah, the book came out in 1992, but what about the new... It doesn't say. But these new reprints started coming out, and I was grabbing books, and I thought this was the first one. I don't know that I want to read the fourth one on alone. Maybe I'll just wait. The Brattle will provide, or other thrift shops will provide. Sooner or later, I will get the first 2 or 3 in this, and maybe then, I don't know, reread. I'm not even sure that the publisher continued with these new covers all the way to the end of the series. I don't know that they did or not. But we keep going on here. There's also this. This is Camber of CI by Catherine Kurtz. Somewhat of a timely find. The other day I was at the lovely home of Chris and Giselle Rhodes, and I noticed that they had all of the Camber of CI books except the first one, and I couldn't remember if I sent them, and I couldn't remember if I sent them the first one. So when random chance put the first one in my path, I grabbed it. Not only because they might want it, I don't know if they fall in love with the Camber series, but also because I haven't read the first one in forever, just in forever, and I'm curious to see it. I remember I dutifully read like 6 books in the series, and they struck me as just resolutely dull. You'd have to like the kind of cozy Society for Creative Anachronism, historical fantasy that they indulge in, or you would never sell you on that. But I'm willing to give it another try. And then the next 3 were Project Penguin, even though Project Penguin is over. The first one is The Heroides by Ovid. This is a cycle of poetry that he did of famous women from mythology writing letters to their lovers, their absent lovers, and complaining, and a few letters from the male lovers writing back. Marvelous poetry, marvelous rhetorical, just fireworks, that I've only read a handful of times in English. It's one of Ovid's a tough translation, and this is one of the toughest ones, because an English language translator is almost certainly going to want to concentrate on the surface where the mythological stuff is happening, and thereby skimp on the stuff that is the real source of interest for it, which is the linguistic stuff that Ovid were doing that I'm not completely sure can be translated. But I saw this nice big trade of it, and I don't have it. So, and then the next one I have only in a mass market. Now I have it in a trade. It's a big trade with complete plays of Christopher Marlo. I have the Penguin mass market, which has the alleged Marlo portrait on the cover. This doesn't. This has Dr. Faust. Dr. Faustus. So, but that's all right. It's beautiful, and it's got the script instead of the words, instead of the letters. See the difference there? I like the script. I don't know why. I just think it's tasteful. And now I have that, and then there's this. Wow, the Penguin find of the day. This is a gigantic volume with the shorter poems of Edmund Spencer. So not the Fairy Queen. This is the Shepherd's Calendar and everything else. And in a beautiful... this has never been touched before. And there it was, sitting there in a pile of books for free. So I grabbed it to go alongside with my Fairy Queen. And then some history. We'll end with a block of history here. The first one is this perfect condition copy of A Bridge Too Far by Cornelius Ryan. This is his narrative history of the Allied attempt to take one of the bridges of the Rhine during World War II, the bridge at Arnhem. And the mission was a logistical and tactical nightmare that just failed. And Ryan tells the story in minute detail, person by person, diary by diary, with day by day, hour by hour. And I haven't read it in forever. I haven't read it since, oh God, it must be 30 years. It was made into a movie that I cannot recommend highly enough. If you see it on, Netflix or whatever, it's well worth your time. And then a real surprise, a real delight. There's a Canadian historian called Pierre Burton, and he did a book about the War of 1812. He did a two-parter, Flames Across the Border and the Invasion of Canada. That's Tecumseh on the cover. And I had them in Canadian mass markets forever and ever, and read them until they became powder and fell apart. I don't have them at the moment. They're fantastic. He's such a good writer. And I found Flames Across the Border, the second half of his... you can read them separately. He's very, very good at taking care of his audience. I didn't find The Invasion of Canada, but I did find this in a trade paperback that I had no idea existed. I'd never seen this before. And while I was finding Pierre Burton, I found a Pierre Burton I haven't read. This is called Vimy. And it's about one particular incident during World War One, and I can't wait to read it. It's a treat to find something. I'm sure he probably has a dozen books that I haven't read, but I hadn't read this one nor ever heard of it, and now I have it, so it goes to the top of the list. And then there was history a little bit closer to home. This is Patrick Loftus's That Old Gang of Mine, and it's a history of South Boston, and it's utterly delightful. It is so warm and so loving, and I had to get it. I've had copies many times, but I no idea where they all are, and so when I saw this for free, I had to get it. And then the last thing I got today is a true gem, something that I was just infinitely happy to find. It's this. It's We the People by Peter Spears. Oh God, sunlight, I swear, no matter what day I do this on. He does ostensible kids books. They're big illustrated things, but they're for all ages. They're marvelous, just marvelous. And this one tells the story of the Constitutional Convention and the drafting of the Constitution, and it gives you the text of the Constitution, We the People, in order to form a more perfect union, while also giving you pictures. Spears pictures of all aspects of American life, all the monuments, lawmakers at work, doctors, immigration lines, farmland, prisons, worker strikes, the whole lot of it, all the way to the present day when the montages are all contemporary things, supermarkets and whatnot, and every one of them, every little story, every little picture tells a story that he does. It's just incredible. He's so talented. All of his books are worth getting, and this one gets all the way to the end. I think my favorite one that tells a story is this. I don't know if you can make it out. It's a pair of young lovers sitting on ancient tombstones with the full moon in the background. They're not thinking about all of the historical personages in the old burying ground where they're sitting. I just love that. You can just dream on a story like that. And this book goes all the way to the end and then gives you the Constitution of the United States, section by section. I just love it. I was so happy to find this. And there you go. That is sort of an unexpected mail haul on a sub-zero day. I thought I'd share it with you, and I'll see you soon, book 2. Thank you.